What if I told you that the person you can't forget is actually holding you back from becoming the man you're meant to be? Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal will shatter everything you think you know about letting go. If you're ready to break free from the chains of your past and discover the masculine psychology behind true emotional freedom, smash that like button right now and let's dive deep into the brutal truth that most men are too afraid to face. Picture this: it's 3 a.m. and you're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her face flashes through your mind again. That laugh, that smile, the way she used to look at you. Your heart races, your chest tightens, and you feel that familiar ache that's been your constant companion for weeks, months, maybe even years. You tell yourself you're over it. You tell your friends you've moved on. But deep down, in the quiet, moments when no one's watching, you know the truth. You're still there, trapped in the prison of your own memories, replaying conversations that ended long ago, holding on to someone who's already let you go. Here's what society won't tell you about letting go, especially as a man. They'll feed you the same recycled advice. Just get over it. There are plenty of fish in the sea. Focus on yourself. But these empty platitudes ignore the deeper psychological reality of what's actually happening in your mind. The brutal truth is this: your inability to let go isn't just about love or attachment. It's about your identity as a man, your relationship with loss, and the unconscious patterns that keep you stuck in emotional quicksand. Most men never understand this, which is why they spend years, sometimes decades, carrying the ghost of relationships that died long ago. What I'm about to share with you comes from years of studying masculine psychology, working with thousands of men who've faced this exact struggle, and uncovering the hidden mechanisms that keep us emotionally imprisoned. This isn't feel-good therapy talk. This is raw, unfiltered truth about the psychology of letting go. Asterisk, but before we go deeper, let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. Are you truly ready to let go, or are you addicted to the pain? Because here's the first brutal truth most men refuse to acknowledge. Sometimes we hold on to people not because we love them, but because the pain of missing them has become our identity. Think about it. When did you last introduce yourself without mentioning her, even indirectly? When did you last go a full day without thinking about what went wrong? When did you last look in the mirror and see yourself as complete, rather than as someone who lost something precious? The masculine psyche has a peculiar relationship with loss. Unlike women, who are generally encouraged to process emotions communally, men are conditioned to internalize, to tough it out, to suffer in silence. This creates what I call the masculine wound, a deep psychological injury that never properly heals because we never learned how to tend to it. Here's where it gets interesting from a psychological standpoint. Your brain doesn't distinguish between physical and emotional pain. When you think about her, when you replay those memories, your brain activates the same pain centers as if you were physically injured. You're literally addicted to the neurochemical cocktail of longing, regret, and nostalgia. But here's what's even more fascinating. Your masculine identity is often tied to being the pursuer, the protector, the one who doesn't quit. So when a relationship ends, especially if you didn't want it to end, your brain interprets this as a fundamental failure of your masculine role. You didn't protect what mattered. You didn't fight hard enough. You weren't man enough to keep her. This isn't just emotional pain, it's an existential crisis. Your subconscious mind is asking, if I couldn't keep the one person who mattered most, what kind of man am I? And until you answer this question honestly, you'll remain trapped in the loop of longing. The psychological term for this is complicated grief, but I prefer to call it masculine entrapment. You're not just mourning the loss of a person, you're mourning the loss of who you thought you were, the future you had planned, and the version of yourself that existed in that relationship. Now, if you're thinking, this is exactly what I'm going through, then you need to hear what comes next, because I'm about to reveal the hidden psychological trap that's keeping you stuck. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. The second brutal truth about letting go is this: you're not actually trying to get her back. You're trying to get back control of your narrative. As men, we're wired to solve problems, to fix things, to take action. When someone leaves our life, especially someone we deeply cared about, our masculine programming kicks into overdrive. We analyze every conversation, replay every moment, search for the exact point where things went wrong, believing that if we can just understand it completely, we can somehow fix it. We convince ourselves that if we just say the right words, make the right gesture, become the right version of ourselves, we can rewrite the ending. But here's the psychological reality. This isn't love. This is your ego refusing to accept that there are some things in life you cannot control. Your inability to let go is actually your inability to accept powerlessness. And for a man raised in a culture that equates masculinity with control, this feels like death. I want you to imagine something. Imagine that you have a friend who's been trying to solve an unsolvable puzzle for 2 years. Every day, he sits at his desk, moving the same pieces around, convinced that today will be the day. He figures it out. He's neglecting his health, his other relationships, his career, his dreams, all for a puzzle that was never meant to be solved. You'd probably think your friend has lost his mind, right? Yet this is exactly what you're doing with your inability. To let go, you're trying to solve a puzzle that has no solution because the game is already over. The woman you can't forget, she's moved on. She's creating new memories, meeting new people, building a life that doesn't include you. While you're stuck in the past, analyzing and reanalyzing what went wrong, she's living in the present. The brutal truth is that your inability to let go isn't affecting her at all, it's only destroying you. From a psychological perspective, this is called rumination, and it's one of the most destructive mental patterns a man can fall into. Every time you replay those memories, you're actually strengthening the neural pathways associated with that pain. You're literally rewiring your brain to be addicted to suffering. Asterisk, but here's where it gets really deep, and if you're still watching, it means you're ready to face the truth that will set you free. The person you can't let go of, she doesn't actually exist. Let me explain what I mean by this. The woman you're holding on to in your mind is not the real woman who walked out of your life. She's a fantasy, a highlight reel, a carefully curated collection of your best memories together. Your brain has edited out all the incompatibilities, the arguments, the red flags, the moments when you knew deep down that it wasn't working. This is called rosy retrospection in psychology, the tendency to remember past events more positively than they actually were. Your mind has turned a real, flawed, complex human being into an idealized version that never existed. You're not mourning the loss of a real person, you're mourning the loss of a fantasy. Think about it honestly. Can you remember the last fight you had, the things about her that annoyed you, the moments when you felt disconnected or incompatible? Your brain has minimized these memories because they don't fit the narrative of the perfect woman who got away. Here's the brutal psychological truth. You're not in love with her. You're in love with the idea of her, the potential you saw in the relationship, the future you had imagined together. You're grieving not for what was, but for what you thought could have been. This is particularly common in men because we're goal-oriented creatures. We see potential, and we want to maximize it. When a relationship ends, especially if we saw long-term potential, our brains don't just mourn the present loss, they mourn all the imagined futures that will never happen. The wedding that will never occur, the house you'll never buy together, the children you'll never have, the adventures you'll never share. You're not just letting go of a person, you're letting go of an entire imagined timeline of your life. But here's what you need to understand. That timeline was never real. It was a projection, a hope, a possibility, but it was never a guarantee. You're suffering for the loss of something that never actually existed outside of your imagination. The woman you can't forget has become a symbol in your mind, a symbol of what you think you need to be happy, complete, fulfilled as a man. But symbols aren't real. They're just ideas we've assigned meaning to. Now, I need you to stay with me here, because what I'm about to tell you will completely change how you see yourself and your relationships. The reason you can't let go isn't because you loved her so much. It's because letting go would mean admitting that your entire approach to love and relationships has been wrong. As men, we're taught to find our purpose, to have a mission, to build something meaningful. So when we enter a relationship, especially a significant one, we often make that relationship our mission. We pour our identity, our energy, our sense of purpose into making it work. This is where the masculine psychology becomes dangerous. We don't just love someone, we make them our project. We see their potential, their flaws, their needs, and we decide that our purpose is to help them become their best self, to solve their problems, to be their hero. When the relationship ends, we don't just lose a partner, we lose our sense of purpose. We lose the project we were working on. We lose the mission that gave our life meaning. And for a man without a mission, life feels empty and directionless. Here's the brutal truth. You've been using relationships to avoid confronting the deeper question of what your life is actually about. Instead of developing your own sense of purpose, your own mission, your own reason for existing, you've been outsourcing your meaning to another person. This is why the pain of letting go feels so existential. It's not just about losing her, it's about losing the sense of direction she provided for your life. Without her, you don't know who you are or what you're supposed to be doing. From a psychological standpoint, this is called external locus of control, when your sense of self-worth and direction depends on external factors rather than internal ones. It's one of the most disempowering ways to live because it means you're always at the mercy of circumstances and other people. Think about it. How much of your identity was wrapped up in being her boyfriend, her partner, her future husband? How much of your daily routine, your goals, your dreams, were centered around her? If the answer is most of it, then you understand why letting go feels impossible. You're not just letting go of a person. You're letting go of the entire structure of meaning you built around that person. You're dismantling the life you created together, and underneath it, you're terrified to discover that there might be nothing left. Asterisk, but let's go even deeper into the psychology of why this is so difficult for men specifically. There's a biological component to attachment that most people don't understand, and it affects men differently than women. When you form a deep emotional bond with someone, your brain releases a cocktail of chemicals: dopamine, oxytocin, vasopressin, and norepinephrine. These chemicals create what we call pair bonding, the neurochemical basis of love and attachment. Here's where it gets interesting. Men typically have higher levels of vasopressin, which is associated with protective behaviors and territorial bonding. This is why men often become more possessive and protective in relationships. It's also why the loss of a significant relationship can feel like losing territory or failing in your protective role. Additionally, men generally have fewer emotional outlets and support systems than women. When a relationship ends, women often have a network of friends and family they can talk to, process with, and receive support from. Men, on the other hand, often isolate themselves and try to tough it out alone. This biological and social combination creates a perfect storm for complicated grief in men. You have strong biological attachment mechanisms, fewer emotional outlets, and cultural pressure to get over it quickly. No wonder so many men get stuck in patterns of rumination and obsessive thinking about past relationships. But here's what I want you to understand, and this might be the most important thing you hear today. Your biology is not your destiny. Understanding these mechanisms gives you power over them. The chemicals that create attachment can also be repurposed for other activities and relationships. The protective instincts that make you want to hold on to her can be redirected toward protecting and building your own life. The bonding mechanisms that kept you connected to her can be used to form new, healthier connections. But first, you have to understand what's really happening in your brain when you can't let go. Every time you think about her, you're activating the same neural pathways that were created during your relationship. You're literally keeping the relationship alive in your brain, even though it's dead in reality. This is why just not thinking about her doesn't work. Those neural pathways are like highways in your brain. They're well-traveled, efficient routes that your thoughts naturally take. You can't just ignore them. You have to consciously create new pathways. ***. Now I want to talk about something that most men will never admit, even to themselves. There's a shadow side to masculine love that we need to acknowledge if we're ever going to truly let go. Part of your inability to release her comes from a darker place than just love or attachment. It comes from your ego's refusal to accept rejection, your pride's inability to tolerate being unwanted, and your competitive nature's struggle with losing. Be honest with yourself. How much of your obsession with her is actually about love? And how much is about the fact that someone said no to you? How much is about missing her? And how much is about your ego being bruised by the rejection? For many men, being left or rejected by a woman they valued highly feels like a fundamental challenge to their masculine worth. It's not just she doesn't want to be with me anymore. It's I wasn't good enough. I wasn't man enough. I failed as a protector and provider. This is where the masculine shadow shows up, in the need to prove that you were worthy, that the relationship could have worked, that you are, in fact, enough. Your inability to let go becomes a way of refusing to accept the verdict that you weren't what she wanted. Here's the brutal truth. Sometimes, you're not what someone wants, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're deficient as a man. It doesn't mean you're unworthy of love. It just means you weren't compatible with that particular person at that particular time. But your ego doesn't want to accept this. Your ego wants to believe that if you just try harder, become better, fix whatever was wrong, you can change the outcome. Your ego treats rejection like a problem to be solved rather than a reality to be accepted. This is the critical point where boys become men. Boys believe that they should be wanted by everyone, that rejection is a failure, that love is about convincing someone to choose you. Men understand that rejection is information, that compatibility is complex, and that love is about choosing someone who genuinely wants to be chosen by you. The woman who left you did you a favor. She told you the truth about her feelings rather than stringing you along. She made space in your life for someone who will genuinely want to be there. But you can only see this gift if you're willing to let go of your ego's need to be universally desired. This is probably the hardest thing for a man to accept, that your worth isn't determined by any single person's opinion of you, including hers. Your value as a man isn't contingent on being chosen by the woman you can't forget. ***. So how do you actually let go? How do you break free from this psychological prison you've built around her memory? The answer isn't what most people think. Don't let go by forgetting. You don't let go by hating her or demonizing the relationship. You don't let go by finding someone new to distract you. You let go by integrating the experience into your story as a man and using it as fuel for your growth. Here's the process. First, you have to grieve properly. Not just the loss of her, but the loss of who you were in that relationship, the loss of the future you imagined, and the loss of the illusions you held about love and relationships. Real grief is different from rumination. Rumination keeps you stuck in the past, analyzing and reanalyzing what went wrong. Grief allows you to feel the pain fully and then release it. Grief is active. Rumination is passive. Second, you have to reclaim your identity as a complete man, not half of a couple. You have to remember who you were before her, reconnect with your own interests, values, and goals, and build a life that's fulfilling, independent of any relationship. This is where most men fail. They jump from relationship to relationship, never taking the time to reconnect with themselves. They use women as mirrors to see their own worth, rather than developing internal validation. Third, you have to extract the lessons. What did this relationship teach you about yourself? What patterns did you repeat? What red flags did you ignore? What needs were you trying to meet through her that you should have been meeting yourself? Every relationship is a teacher, but you only learn the lessons if you're willing to be honest about what went wrong. Not just what she did wrong, but what you contributed to the dynamic. Fourth, you have to forgive. Not her, but yourself. Forgive yourself for not being perfect, for making mistakes, for not knowing then what you know now. Forgive yourself for holding on too long, for the pain you've caused yourself, for the time you've wasted. Self-forgiveness is the key to letting go, because it's your self-judgment that keeps you trapped. You can't release what you're still punishing yourself for. Once you've done the internal work of grieving, reclaiming, learning, and forgiving, you have to build something new. You have to become the man who wouldn't get trapped in this pattern again. This means developing what I call integrated masculinity, a sense of masculine identity that's based on your internal compass rather than external validation. An integrated man knows his worth independent of any relationship. He chooses partners who enhance his life rather than complete it. Here's what this looks like practically. You develop a clear sense of your values and live by them regardless of who's in your life. You build a compelling vision for your future that isn't dependent on any particular person being part of it. You create a daily routine that nourishes your body, mind, and spirit. Whether you're single or partnered, you learn to enjoy your own company, to find fulfillment in your work, hobbies, friendships, and personal growth. You become someone who attracts love rather than chases it, someone who adds value to relationships rather than seeking to extract value from them. Most importantly, you develop emotional independence. You learn to process your feelings, to seek support when you need it, to be vulnerable without being needy, to love without losing yourself. This is the paradox of letting go. The more complete you become as an individual, the more capacity you have for genuine love and partnership. The more you stop needing someone to complete you, the more attractive you become to people who are also complete. The woman you couldn't let go of was attracted to the man you were becoming, not the man you became when you started clinging to the relationship. The clinging, the neediness, the loss of yourself in the relationship, that's what killed the attraction, not some fundamental flaw in who you are. When you rebuild yourself as an integrated man, you don't just heal from this relationship, you become immune to getting trapped in this pattern again. You become someone who can love deeply without losing himself, who can be vulnerable without being dependent, who can commit without becoming clingy. This is true masculine power, the ability to love without fear, to connect without losing your identity, to be emotionally available without being emotionally dependent. Asterisk, let me paint you a picture of what your life looks like on the other side of this. Transformation. You wake up in the morning and your first thought isn't about her. You look in the mirror and see a complete man, not someone who lost something precious. You go about your day with purpose and a direction that comes from within. You pursue goals that matter to you, not because you're trying to prove something to someone who's no longer in your life, but because you've reconnected with your own values and ambitions. When you think about her, and you will, occasionally it's with gratitude rather than pain. Gratitude for the lessons learned, the growth experienced, the clarity gained about what you actually want in a partner. You realize that your inability to let go wasn't actually about her at all. It was about your relationship with yourself. Your understanding of masculinity, your approach to love and attachment. She was just the catalyst that forced you to confront these deeper issues. The pain you experienced, the struggle to let go, the dark nights of the soul, all of it was necessary to transform you into the man you needed to become. Without that experience, you might have continued the pattern of losing yourself in relationships, of seeking external validation, of building your identity around someone else. Now you understand that love isn't about finding someone to complete you. It's about finding someone who complements the complete person you already are. Relationships aren't about rescue or being rescued. They're about two whole people choosing to share their lives. You've learned that letting go isn't about forgetting or moving on quickly. It's about integrating experiences into your story, learning from them, and using them as stepping stones to become a better version of yourself. Most importantly, you've discovered that your worth as a man isn't determined by any relationships, success, or failure. Your worth comes from your character, your values, your growth, your contributions to the world, and your commitment to becoming the best version of yourself. The woman you couldn't let go of. She's become a chapter in your story, not the whole book, an important chapter that taught you valuable lessons, but just one chapter in the larger narrative of your life. And here's the beautiful truth. The man you've become through this process of letting go is more attractive, more grounded, more emotionally intelligent, and more capable of genuine love than the man who was clinging to someone who didn't want to be held. You didn't just let go of her, you let go of the version of yourself that needed her to feel complete. And in doing so, you found the completeness that was always within you. That's the brutal truth about letting go. It's not really about them at all. It's about you. It's about your growth, your healing, your transformation into the man you were always meant to be. If this resonated with you, if you're ready to begin this transformation, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Share this video with a friend who needs to hear this message. And remember, the pain you're feeling right now is not permanent. It's preparation for the man you're becoming. Your journey to emotional freedom starts now. The question is, are you ready to let go of who you were to become who you're meant to be?